don't tell her, show her.
Life is all the bad experiences.
How come the baby doesn't cry?
The craziest part.
She is her happiest.
We have come loaded. The Modern Parenting Podcast. We're proud parents. It has been 2 weeks since we've done the Modern Parents Podcast.
It has been a hot minute of 2 weeks.
Welcome back to another episode on the Modern Parents Podcast. My name is Trinh, and here is your co-host Keri, drinking some rose tea on my left-hand side. K-Bod, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good.
Where have we been?
We are caked out for Ocean celebration yesterday.
Yes.
The reenactment of birth.
The reenactment of birth, or do you want me to do the reenactment of the cake smash? Because I can do the cake smash, not so much the birth. We'll leave the birth, but
she turned one.
It was quite funny. We were just reenacting every single moment yesterday inside of our minds, and I was just remembering that I carried 2 luggage suitcases into the hospital in the emergency room, and I stuffed our bags with food, chips, lollies, drinks, orange juice.
We went loaded.
Yeah. It was like we were moving into a new house or something. And so
it was really funny.
And the nurses looked at me going, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "I'm just getting prepared."
I got to make 2 trips down to the car.
Yeah. And we were doing the reenactment.
Brilliant.
And I was saying to Keri, I just could not win that day as a husband, being in the room trying to give you moral support. It's okay, baby. It's okay. You're like, get off me. Get off me.
The things that I thought that I would never do during birth.
She did.
I did, which was he tried to give me moral support, pat me on the back, and I was like, get the F off me.
No motivational speeches. No, it's going to be
not
okay.
even politely.
Nah. It's men.
It was raw.
It's an
it was
experience
primal.
that is sacred, that no men can speak of what happens inside of that room. You are all alone, my friend. You're all alone. So anyway, it was Ocean's birthday yesterday, wasn't it?
366 days. This year was a leap year.
Yeah.
So she experienced an extra day, on Earth. Yeah.
366. Okay, what do we do? What did Ocean get? What do we get, Ocean?
She got a cake smash.
She
got a musical set, her first toy.
Yep.
And she got some books. And she got a Gucci hat.
Not from us. From her cousin.
My cousins love the luxury.
They love the lux.
Yeah, very typical
the
Chinese.
Asians with their lux.
Yeah, luxury brand.
Gold and luxurious brand. So we're back. We thought we'd learn from our last couple of episodes and install our foam back on the mics. So we're not going to go poof and all puffy.
No, he's not going to spit into his mic.
I'm not going to spit into it. Your ears will be
the water
okay.
damage.
So today's topic is taking a stand for the principles that you believe in. And I actually think this is really important in living a good life and living a life where you don't try to be liked by every single person. You want to be respectful. But I think living a life where you want to be liked by everyone is not a life worth living. Do you want to?
I think to begin with, for the most part, most people don't have principles they live by. So what we see, particularly exaggerated by social media now, is everybody's thoughts, opinions, advice. Most of the times they're not given with proper principle-based lives behind them. They're just given through a keyboard with here are my thoughts of the day versus here are my thoughts that I've lived and experienced and practiced and failed through and therefore I'm giving you my advice through my experience.
It's become a regurgitation of things that were passed down from us and to us from our parents, our friends, our cousins. And it's actually quite funny. Your mother reminds me of the person that is the biggest example of this.
Yep.
Do you want to kind of talk about the incident? I won't say incident, but I'd say the moment when she had a conversation with you about Ocean and wondered whether or not Ocean should be walking because she's 12 months old, or she should be doing something. And what was that about?
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example, I think, in the day-to-day situations that we face, because it's we've become, I think, more and more aware that we got to live and stand on our own 2 feet and experience these things for ourselves with our North Compass, with our principles. And it's quite often funny that when we do experience these things, we start to just recognize that the world lives on this pattern. And it's just this, it's almost like that TV show Westworld.
I love that show
so much
because it's a marker of real life, but it's so fabricated and it's so augmented.
Do you want to describe what Westworld is? What is it?
Yeah, we haven't watched many seasons. I think we've only watched 1 season when I got you to get Foxtel at the time.
Yeah.
And Westworld is, it's very hard to explain TV show, but basically in the future, what we're going to be able to experience is a virtual, augmented, a real reality going into a day-to-day scenario playing back Wild Wild West. But every single day, it's the same story because it has new people going in, has me and Lynn experiencing for that day Wild Wild West. So it's
kind of like virtual reality that you can plug into and live your wildest fantasies with fictional characters that repeat themselves day to day.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny because the analogy, once we start to watch that, Keri picks this up a lot faster than I do. She's like, oh my God, this is like real life. And people just behave on these. They wake up the next morning and they do the same thing and they say the same thing and they don't even question what they're saying. And their ability to change is so slow and they don't even realize it until they realize it. And then they want to change, but then they don't change and then they go back to the same thing. And
even inside of Westworld, the interesting thing is at times these robots will have a conscious thought that pops up and they question their reality, and this is where it becomes really complex and the storyline evolves on itself in that way. But the robot has this spark of consciousness, and you're a robot, you're not supposed to think anything else, and therefore it becomes like this real life a real life model of we have sparks of consciousness, but then all of a sudden we go back into the pattern of going, this is what it is. And we play the broken record. Yeah.
So taking a stand and your mum.
Yeah. So my mum is she has a very open-minded characteristic, but what that tends to negatively impact her with is that she takes a lot of influence from outside.
She listens to everybody?
Yeah, she listens to everyone and
Who
everything.
Who does she listen to?
A lot of the times, WeChat has now got this like Facebook
WeChat
plug-in kind of. So like you get feeds on everything and anything. So there's that, there's YouTube, and a lot of the times her friends, because her friends as well, they're the Westworld of life, and they go step by step of milestones with life, and they kind of ask her the same thing in their patterned questions. So she becomes a patterned replay of those questions.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
quite interesting. I can imagine that her friends would be like, oh, Ocean's 12 months. Has she started doing this yet?
Yes. So the teeth was a big one. Every single week she would come over and be like, does Ocean have teeth? Oh, lots of babies have teeth when they're 8 months. And
on
here
Ocean's teeth, it's so cute with, she's got one tooth, it's like a little
I like
tooth.
I like to say that's her little gift to herself for her 1 year.
One-eyed tooth.
Yeah, because it's popped out now. Yeah, so cute. So she got her first tooth when she's 1. Now that she's 1.
Like 11 months.
11 and a half months. Yeah. On the tail end of the first year.
And for most,
I think it's not that normal. I think a lot of babies get teeth earlier.
We don't know, right? When I used to consume things from other people, teething happened at 3 months. My baby's teething. I'm like, dude, calm down and chill out. Like, your baby cannot be teething right now. Oh, my baby is just she's all irritated, she must be teething, or my baby's just rolled out of bed this morning, she must be teething, or any excuse to kind of validate. I think humans need to find a story to just validate the insecurity, the uncertainty of what if my baby is not normal.
It reminds me a lot of Tony Robbins, where he says your brain is just a series of questions and answers. And he says you will go to the point of even lying to yourself in order to find an answer to a question that you have.
Just some certainty, just some stability. Yeah. And
it's fascinating.
It's not okay to not know.
Yeah.
And it's not okay to go. Keri and I joke about this all the time, but it's actually not a joke. We actually make this a serious thing. We're like, we've never seen a baby who's grown up to being 18 years old who hasn't weaned off a dummy. Or we haven't seen an adult that hasn't weaned off breast milk. And it's kind of like, if you look at the bigger picture, everything works out in the end. And it's just when we look at it, and it's the same thing. I think about this with business, and I think about, if I look at this day to day, have you ever seen like stocks trade up and down, like day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute? It's like
heart attacks.
Up and down, right? And then you just take a look back and you just go, oh, yeah, I could have predicted that trend.
Trends upwards or trends downwards.
But in that moment, everyone loses their shit.
Yeah.
And your mum becomes one of them. And it's really good because you have a conscious effort. I really appreciate what you're doing with your mum, where her mum's beautiful, right? She's got such great intentions, such great heart, and she wants to change. She wants to be better, but she's 60. And when you're 60 and you have so many stories and so many beliefs, and she hasn't changed, the people that she hangs out with, keep feeding her. Oh, you should take your kids to private school. You have to go to this school. This school's the best. Take them early.
Yeah.
Your kid has to play chess because, chess is very smart. Or your kids have to learn how to program computer code.
Piano. Mum's banging on with this piano thing.
And there's good intention. There is. But it's like the word you have to. Or there's some false scarcity out there. Like you're missing out.
Yeah.
And there are the key fundamental skills, I believe, that we'll have with Ocean. Like, we want her to play chess because we look at it as long game. We want to teach her how to think for herself. And
how to think is the key skill set.
How to think
if I
and
could
how to communicate.
encompass everything that we talk about with how to raise Ocean into the best human being.
Yeah.
It's mostly around how to think.
How to think for herself.
Yeah, and how to communicate as well.
How to think, how to question. And funnily enough, nobody likes to be questioned. I for a long period of time didn't like to be questioned. I'm like, dude, just do what I say.
And that is the ultimate parenting label, title. Do it because I said so.
Because I said so.
Why do we do it this way? Because I said so.
Yeah.
Because I said so.
And it's so difficult. I get it, because it's so difficult to understand. It's funny to understand what's happening inside of your brain, to break down your thoughts. Two people come to my mind right now, Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is like, communication is so difficult because you got to take these complex ideas of packages of data, because he's talking about his Neuralink, which is a chip that you put in the brain. And then you have to package it in the right process in order to formulate words. And then you have to correctly compress the data packages into words. And these words are so powerful because whatever I'm saying is transpiring across to Keri's ears. And then she's got to unpack that data accurately. What are the chances of miscommunication? Of her understanding what I was meaning inside of my brain? Very high chance, right? That opened up my world of just going, wow, like, I never thought about communication that way, and ideas and being able to, and that's what it is. Communication is just sharing ideas and being able to connect to each other so that we can connectively grow together.
Yeah.
Then understand each other, move forward together, build bigger things together. And then Jordan Peterson, who's someone that I've been geeking out on, and Keri has been geeking out on for a longer period of time, but I found his work really fascinating. Initially, like I listened to him and I was just like, this guy's boring. And the reasons why he was boring, because I just didn't get it. Like I couldn't understand. So, if you read a quantum physics book, it's going to be boring as hell. I just couldn't understand. I wasn't smart enough to understand what he was trying to say. And then I stuck at it for a little bit and every...
Can I rephrase that?
Yes.
I actually think you weren't interested in what he was saying.
Okay.
Because when you read his actual words and he talks about topics like religion, politics, parenting, not business.
Mm-hmm.
But when you listen to him actually describing these topics, he does so in a very simplistic manner.
Yep.
Like his words are very, very simple to understand. It's quite not reading like a quantum physics book, but it's just boring.
Yep.
Like when you read a physics book.
It's boring. And
and
my interpretation of it was, okay,
I get it. I get it. Right.
I get it. Like here's another motivational guy, like judging from the outset, he's another motivational guy who isn't very motivational. Right? I was like, all right, if you're going to be motivational, you got to hype me up on something. Like,
give me some punchline quotes.
This guy's dry. All right. Give me some punchlines that I'm like, oh yeah, he's dry. But then I started to just listen more because I started to watch how he would debunk, like so many people have attacked him, like for his principles around racism, sexism, capitalism, socialism, transgender, feminism. And every single person. They're very
challenging topics.
They're very challenging. Oh my God, these people are intellects, scholars, journalists. And if you look up interviews that he's done on YouTube, like I'm sitting there not even understanding the question half the time. I'm like,
especially around politics.
What the fuck's the question? What are they asking? What are all these words?
Postmodernism, totalitarian. Yeah. I had to Google those. Like, what's a postmodernist? I was like, what?
There's just another level of academics out there.
Yeah.
And I think this is the world of academics. So if I'd studied a little bit more, became a physio PhD, maybe I could rise up to that level. But there's just another category of elitists almost. And these elitists are trying to tackle him because it's like debating. It's like these politicians that are debating, they get high off just, I caught you out there in that moment. And the guy is just flawless in everything that he just runs rings around people. And it really made me appreciate the fact that he takes a stand for something, for his own principles, but he doesn't do it in an egotistical manner. And this is when he was describing it, I think, I think it was Joe Rogan or one of the podcasters. And he's like, every argument I make, I create 5-6 different identities of myself arguing for the opposite. So I'd put out another version of me out here and I slip out another version of me. And then I would just throw that around and then I'd argue it. And then now I understand as much of the argument as possible.
That's very cool. It's very holistic.
And until then, and he's thrown it around a few times, then he sits with it. And then he figures out, okay, well, how does he communicate this argument?
Yeah.
And this is how he learns how to communicate. And so I find it really amazing that he's able to take a stand. He's able to get persecuted for his thoughts, ideas. And in the end of the day, he always pulls through.
He takes a stand not just by opinion. He takes a stand through his studying, through his research.
Through his experience as well.
Yeah, through his experience. Yeah.
So
and that's what, like, I think that's what I really respect about him.
Yeah.
That he takes a stand, but very intellectually.
It's kind of like...
Yeah.
It's kind of like people that would take a stand, but they're just obnoxious. Or they're very one-sided, or they're very...
So my mother takes a stand. Mm-hmm. She fully takes a stand with Trump. Mm-hmm. And
she's
even now, as he's not
she
president,
wants him to come back.
She truly, from the bottom of her heart, still believes that he might win the presidential election.
And she wants him to win.
And she wants him to win so badly. That's because taking a stand.
But she's emotionally charged.
Yes. Whereas Jordan Peterson, when he does it,
Mm-hmm.
he has an argument to his stance,
Mm-hmm.
not just this is my stance.
Yep.
But why? Because I said so.
I also think he's taken a lot of the emotions out of it. And when you take a stand emotionally, you can become blind. And I think the reasons why your mum takes a stand with Trump, and even though it's so strong,
it's very emotional.
It's very emotional because she's against communism, and she doesn't like socialism, and she loves capitalism. So she's for Trump for that reasons, and plus Trump calls out China. So she's like anti-Chinese communist, right? That's the emotional side that blinds up everything else that she isn't able to see, like the bigger picture. Which is why I respect, parents so much when you have something that you believe in and you do take a stand, because every other person, every Tom, Dick and Harry is going to have their opinion. Sorry, I use Tom, Dick and Harry in the business. Maybe we should come up with names for parents. Are they called
Tom, Dick and Harry is
Tom,
good.
Dick and Harry? But they're usually not Tom, Dick and Harry's though. What are they? Diane's? Jesse's? Sally's. Every Sally, and I'm not trying to be racist or feminist or
Motherists.
Every Sally's going to have an opinion.
Yeah.
Not so much with...
I definitely can see that, because when I was pregnant, at the time, everyone had an opinion
What did they say
on how to be a mum.
What did they say?
I don't remember, but I just was like, wow, I'm entering into a world of opinions.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Everyone has an opinion.
Make sure you get enough sleep.
Yeah.
Which is true. I mean, that's a good... But
it's still an opinion, it's still right?
It's like, make sure you get enough sleep. You're not going to get enough sleep at all. Oh, make sure you buy a Docker tot. Make sure... I had this opinion by my mum. Make sure you roll your baby around every couple of hours so that she doesn't get a flat head.
Did she say
I
that?
had that one.
Yeah.
Like
your mum always mentions to me,
oh,
Ocean has such a round head because she doesn't sleep often on her head.
I'm like, she doesn't sleep at all on her head.
I was like, this is so random.
She's got a flat nose because she's sleeping like this all the time. But every Sally is going to have an opinion. And it's really difficult because in a time of uncertainty, you're going to want to cling to certainty. You're going to want to go, tell me what to do. Oh my God, somebody. And what tends to happen is you get all these people giving you different pieces of advice and you get so confused.
I was really confused when I first entered motherhood.
How confused would you have been?
Yeah, I Googled so many times throughout the day and night. I just remember, from morning 24 hours being awake, I would just be Googling different blogs, different experts, different mums.
So what happens if your baby doesn't feed? What happens if your baby gets sick?
Everything. Colic, is my baby's poo okay? Is it supposed to be running like
how many times should be pooing a day?
Yeah.
What happens when my baby doesn't latch on?
Yeah.
My baby's just crying. How do I get it to stop crying? Except that baby doesn't cry. Except she kind of does.
Is it normal that my baby's always sleeping? Because in the first month, that's
there
what
is
they're
so
doing.
much uncertainty, and the reality is, at the same time, there's a lot of advice out there that is conflicting. And at the end of the day, how do you navigate through all of this? How did you navigate through it? Because I didn't get that much. Generally because I'm already the type where I'm like, I don't want your opinion. Like, people generally know that. If I want it, I would ask for it. If I want it, I would pay for it. I don't really want your opinion. And that's kind of my filtering system already. Just because when I started out early and I took on so many opinions, I imploded with opinions. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't want anyone's opinion. Please don't tell me. Like, you're not in my shoes. I remember people would
in terms of parenting, in terms of business.
In terms of business, in terms of how to be a better husband to you, in terms of relationship advice, I would get different opinions that we should have more polarity. I should be spending more time doing my own thing. I should be spending time away from Keri, etc. And I would receive opinions left, right, and center. And my filtering system is quite robust because I don't allow myself to be easily influenced by other people's opinions. On the flip side, there is a negative to that because I might not have full context. I might be too narrow-minded. On the safe side, So that, how do you filter through the first month of motherhood where you were up all night, every night? It was crazy. I remember going to sleep, and every hour Keri would wake up. She would take over from the bed. We had a couch at the end of the bed. She'd turn on the light. We had this little lamp. She'd switch it on, turn it on, and she would feed O. You were feeding a bottle at the time. Feed O the bottle. And then
afterwards I would pump.
And then you'd burp. And then she'd jump on a ball, up and down, up and down, up and down. Go back to bed for about an hour. Hardly sleep. Do it all again every hour. And I was just lying there and I was just like, thank God that's not me. I was like, honey, you're doing a great job.
One of the biggest advice was actually to get your husband to do one of the nightly feeds.
Oh, yeah.
So she'd probably feed maybe 4 times a night or 3 times a night.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the biggest advice
you gotta
circling the online space is to get your husband to do one of the online, to do one of the night.
Yeah, I can imagine.
On the bottle.
I've had my brother-in-laws do their night shifts.
Yeah.
Why did you not ever get me to do a night shift? Did you not trust me? Did you? Knowing what I know
now, with getting you to feed O, if I left for an hour and telling you, hey, can you make sure you feed O? I would be like, yeah, I don't trust you.
Yeah, and hey, like feeding O is a bit of a struggle for me. So I'll tell you why. It's difficult. She's sitting there. Sometimes she wants the food. Sometimes she doesn't want the food.
You're scared of getting rejected.
It's rejection, and it's hard rejection because she's looking really upset. She's like, no, daddy, no, please don't. Like hands waving in the air. She's getting irritated. She's trying to pull her hair out. She's like, no, please don't. And I'm like, okay, all right, done. Like, cool.
When it's
and then it's crazy because then like you slip it again and then she takes it. And
exactly.
I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
And this one knows the trick. And I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather not make my baby cry because I want to be liked. She's the only person that I want to like me, literally, which forces me to play into this weird territory that I don't usually play in, which is a very ineffective territory. And right now, I need to find myself through that because I don't mind if Keri likes me or not. I know she loves me. I know she respects me. But with O, it's like, how do I make you happy? How do I not make you cry?
I think you said it just right there when you said that she respects me. I think what will happen when she's starting to talk and when she's starting to understand concepts, it's being liked versus being respected.
For sure.
And I think that your children are your greatest teachers and greatest practice for it, whether or not you are here on earth to be liked or here on earth to be respected.
I also
because
get why
most people want to be both, but they don't always.
I get why people want to be liked as well. And studying myself with O, it's kind of like, well, O already spends so much time with you. She feeds on your boob. She always wants you. She kind of like 10% of the time
she's an important
wants me.
person in your life, and when they're an important person, you want to be liked by them.
I do
completely get that.
But it's this thing of not. It's this thing of going, okay, I've only got this 10% where she kind of like comes to daddy, and I don't want her to ever not come to me. And so I feel like I'm hanging on by this scarce, loose 10% thing that I have with her that if I pissed her off, she's going to be like, daddy, I don't want it. I don't want to see it. And that would heartbreak and end in heartbreak for me. Funnily enough, in any other area of my life, I'm abundant. In that relationship with O, I feel scarce because I've got that 10%. And I'm like, I want her to always smile at me when I come out, you know? And that's the scarcity. And that leads to you want to be liked because you're afraid. And so moving back, we've just gone on a tangent. Well, back to you.
You want to know?
Yeah. I want to know.
I took on every piece of. This feels a little bit reversed because we've talked past the topic, but I wanted to know every single piece of advice of how to be a mum and how to be a great mum. And when it all kind of came bombarding at me, I realized, holy crap, if I listen to everyone's advice, I'm just going to be a headless chook running around doing all of these things that I potentially don't agree with.
Okay.
So lucky I already had the doesn't make sense within me.
Yeah.
And then at some point I tipped over and I was like, okay, which mum around me do I actually respect and who I would take advice from?
Okay.
And it turned out that no one around me was the type of mum that I respected.
That just reminded me of
No tips.
That just reminded me of Conor McGregor in the ring, where he finishes a fight and he's like, "I would like to take this time to apologize to absolutely nobody." that just reminded me. Okay, so you searched around. There wasn't anybody. Why not? Why wasn't there anybody out there with good advice? They've got good advice, right? But the advice that what advice were you looking for?
I don't know what advice I was looking for, but I knew what type of mum I wanted to be, and I wanted to be a really connected mum. I wanted Ocean to know that that we had a very strong sense of attachment, versus what I believe everyone was trying to make my baby independent.
Yep.
Which doesn't make sense because a baby is a baby.
Yeah. And a baby and you is connected. It's quite funny.
They're precious. They're fragile. They need a sense of security. And from my experience in my context, is I didn't have a sense of attachment when I was young.
Yep.
I was always kind of left being looked after by various people in the family. And I was very family orientated, but I didn't have a sense of attachment to my mum. And therefore I knew I wanted that for Ocean.
Yep.
A lot of things.
Looking at the way that you parent though, it's called modern parents, but it's actually not modern. It's actually not convenient. I think parenting and a lot of the advice around parenting is this. It's optimized for how to make your life easier as a parent. 99% of things. How do you get your baby to go to sleep so that you can go to sleep? How do you get your baby to eat so that you can eat? How do you confine your baby and not allow the baby to mess up your whole entire house and your whole workspace? And what I see you do, and I would say what I would do too, and what I do at times at my 10% that I'm allowed, is we look at connection and integration as the key. And that's our North Compass. So does O feel connected to us, me and you, as father, as mother? Is O able to integrate in terms of her nutrition? And this is really funny because like we don't have formula milk. You go into our house, we don't have canned, food for, I don't even know what's in canned food, but like canned baby food. We don't have milk bottles lying around. You could go into our house and I don't even think you'd recognize
your sister texted you and we laughed a little bit because she asked whether you had a cot.
She's like, yeah, she's coming over on Friday and she's like, do you guys have a cot? And I'm like, what's a cot? I'm like, no, we don't have one of those. We have a bed. We have a bed on the floor. We have a king size mattress on the floor and and our mother's there. And what we're trying to optimize for is we're trying to optimize for the experience of connection and being truly connected in a very disconnected society. It's modern parenting, but it's going back to the wisdoms of 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000, but the true wisdoms of that, not so much what they didn't have, it's so much of the things of culture, values, principles that they had, community, kind of like allowing us to co-learn as opposed to Ocean's a baby. So put her in the corner, give her her toys, go see her every 5 minutes, go look after her versus come embrace her.
I love that because that once again means that any advice when people say how to have a relationship, how to have romance after you have a baby, it doesn't really apply to us generically because that means getting a babysitter, getting, you know, doing the convenient thing for the baby whilst we try and romance and bring back our fire after going through birth.
I think it's different fire.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. So we're
back,
figuring it out.
Yeah.
So differently to the advice that's online.
Like people want to go back to their date nights and how do I take you to a movie and how do we watch a movie and how do we do these things that we used to do, and it's like, but wait, you got to find the next chapter. You got to stop going back to the past.
Yes.
Exactly. Something that I journaled about this morning was looking back at being 30 and my body in my 20s versus my body in my 30s, and the whole entire time of being a father, being a business owner, running all these things, when it comes to my body, I've always wanted to go back into the past. I've always gone, hey, I want to get back here. Instead of figuring out, okay, what is the next evolution as a 30 to 40-year-old man that's no longer 20 to 30, no longer in his 20s, what's the next evolution and journey that I got to embrace?
I love that.
And it's the same it's the same evolution with our relationship.
Yep.
That so many people go, they look back at their past and they go, oh my God, I wish we used to be like that. Like, do
you remember our date nights every Friday?
Do you remember when we first just started dating?
We used to have a glass of wine every night together.
Like, people want to go back to that, and I'm like, no, you got to stop going back into the past. And this was my reflection this morning in my journaling. I got to stop going back to when I had a six-pack, and I got to figure out, okay, what is practical for me right now? What's my journey as a 30 going into my 40s? You know, the shit's not getting easier. So what joy, what excitement, fulfillment process do I find there, rather than creating this fantasy that I got to get back here? It's like, that's done. And so the romance with you and I is going to evolve, and it's not going to go, hey, Ocean, go away. I need romance time with your mum. That's what would have happened without Ocean. Now it's like, well, how do we incorporate family and then find romance amongst the family?
When I hear that, I laugh a little bit inside because Ocean bed shares with us. She sleeps in the bed with me.
Oh, you're not going to do it? Are you going to?
And Lynn sleeps in the next bed.
Yep.
And for the most part, parents put their child in a cot so that they can sleep together and romance together. But the funny thing is, romance is typically dead in most relationships anyway. So you're doing something to separate your child in order to try and bring back something that you're missing, which is romance, but it was missing in the first place.
Yeah. That's when it becomes forced.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes really sticky. So I play out these scenarios down and I go, if Ocean's in another room and I'm trying to romance you and we're both not feeling it because our connection isn't there, because we're not integrated, our values are not aligned, it's kind of, that's when disappointment happens.
Yeah.
Kind of like, all right, we've only got 30 minutes.
That's a spiral of disappointment because
then
the baby is in a separate room.
Yep. We've got to do it.
Yeah.
We're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
She's not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. We're just going to do it. And most people are okay with that until they're not. Until 5 years down the track, when they start to go, wow, this is not what my life should be. This is not what this is not what I thought I was going to happen. Amongst all of the comparison on social media and Hollywood painting your life to be happily ever after, it's no wonder why so many people are getting divorced. Like 54% right now across the world, a bit higher in America. But then with COVID-19, when people are isolated and locked down together, that's like shot up. And it's quite funny. There's a stereotype that men have, like literally, it's like once you're married, goodbye. And I kind of get that stereotype because
Goodbye what?
Goodbye to just life, good luck. Like
right.
It's game over for you. Like here's your and I think that's why they have this bachelor party.
One final hurrah.
Because it's like one final hurrah, one final crazy night out, one final adventure of your life. And you know, what tends to happen in marriages is people then start looking back at their glory days and then they want that. And I used to, like, I found myself quite often talking about my past and what I used to get up to in my body and attracting women and the games that I could play. And I'm like, oh yeah, those were so good. And it's kind of like until you realize that the best is still ahead of you and you just have to make it your best, you're stuck in limbo.
And it's easy to look at the tactics. I would say the body and all of that gloriness and things like that. They're the tactics of life.
Yep.
It's very easy to look back on those tactics and wish you still had them.
Mm-hmm.
But underlying all of that was a very unshaky foundation of no principles.
No principles, no North Compass. No North Compass. And the intuition, I really think in order for you to consciously parent and be aware of everyone else's stories that were just other people's stories that they believed and people just said shit and then we all just agreed, and as soon as you agree then you now regurgitate because that becomes a thing. You can't be conscious if you don't know your North Compass, if you don't know what you're optimizing for. Like Keri and I, if we didn't know that we're trying to build an integrated family with O, then we're trying to look at growing her up as quickly as possible, getting her out of the house, going to school so that we can have our own time back then.
Why didn't we just not have kids?
Exactly. Like, why do we just waste 5 years of our life
to
do nothing in our marriage to then get back to a point? It just doesn't make any sense. And it's like, you can choose to have children. And if you do, then figure out how to integrate them and live the best life instead of trying to go back to the past of the life that you had previously. I think that then becomes our principles, and that's the stand that we're taking with modern parents. That's the stand that more than ever your kids need to be connected to you amongst the wild, wild west of social media technology. That they need to feel like they have a home with
before
you.
They try and find a community outside, have a community at home first.
Yeah.
Build that community, that safe home. Home is where the heart is.
Yeah.
And for the most part, children don't have a home at home. And a lot of children these days are trying to seek belonging in a place where
it's confusing.
It's wild. It is wild because people bombard you with their opinions.
Different messages. The belief of there are billions of different thoughts and billions of different ideas and beliefs out there. How do your kids know what to believe?
Yeah.
How do they know what they're optimizing for? And so when they start believing everything, they start to lose their mind because they don't know who they are.
Yeah. And then when they see their mum and dad who supposedly have principles, but their principles are conflicting, which, with my mum, it is conflicting because on the one hand, she vouches for growth-minded and everything like that. Then on the other hand, she's like, I'm too old. Those are very two conflicting. I'm
too old to change.
Yes.
But I'll tell you to change.
Yes. So they're two very conflicting principles.
Yeah.
And like when I'm young, I don't see the differences and I just become confused.
I've just realized this whole entire time you got that big microphone in your face covering up on your face.
Oh, I can't see my face.
You can't see well.
Hello.
Keri's face is half covered, but this is Keri.
Hello.
Oh, it's the best. Oh, this is.
I'm short, guys.
This is hilarious, but.
Oh, there we go.
So,
I can see myself
being
now.
able to take a stand.
I love this. This is the best episode so far.
Being able to take a stand for your North Compass and being strong enough to understand where people are coming at. Understand that people have great intentions. Your mum has great intentions.
She
my
does.
parents have great intentions. My siblings have great intentions. My friends have great intentions. They just want to not see me fail or make mistakes. They just want to save me some harm. And there's great intention there. Unfortunately, great intention generally doesn't turn out to be a great outcome that optimizes for integration. It actually optimizes for convenience. So modern parents isn't about being convenient. It's not about it's about having a fulfilling life. It's about being connected with your children. It's about having a family that can all share and will fight and die for each other at the end and be there for one another. Because at the end of the day, that's all you have.
Yep.
At the end of the day, the only thing that I've come to realize after Ocean and you is that family is all that matters. And it's the family that I have. And it's the family that I get to lead. It no longer becomes the family that I was a part of. It becomes the tribe that you're a part of a tribe. And if you decide that, heck, like you got to go out and find your own way and to build your own tribe, then great, so be it. If you can build your tribe within the tribe, even better. I've found that I've had to leave my tribe to go out and explore to create this thing and then create the foundations and the protection as well as the framework and the North Compass for us to follow.
And his tribe being mum and dad, 5 siblings.
Yeah.
Which
5 super smart siblings, 5, but
they're a very close family. Like for him to leave, to say that is a very strong statement and very, very difficult.
And when you do leave and when you do decide to declare and take a stand for what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to optimize for, and you do go, enough is enough, you're going to need to take a stand and you're going to need to go, okay, well, I can no longer have this conversation inside of my tribe because I don't want these communication packets to keep storing up inside of my mind, because whether or not you know it, everything that you listen to, everything that you allow your brain to subconsciously hear sits there, and now now it's stored inside of your brain.
I will always know. I don't even know these 2 people on Instagram, and I'm not even on Instagram anymore, but I will always remember that one of the influencers I used to follow, mum influencers, her baby started walking at 11 months.
Mm-hmm.
Another baby's tooth came out when they were 8 months.
Yep.
I will always remember that.
And it sits there.
And it just sits there.
Just sits there waiting.
Yeah. It doesn't impact me in any way, but I'm like, why can I just forget that because it's using up RAM? The fact that I know.
I disagree. It does impact you. It impacts you in your moments of instability and uncertainty and your moments of chaos. That's when it comes up.
Yeah, it does come up.
That's when it comes up.
It
when
could.
you start becoming insecure, you're like, oh my God.
If Ocean doesn't walk,
and she doesn't have teeth.
Yeah, or if Ocean at 15 months isn't walking still, I might go, oh my God, how do you get a baby to walk? And
for sure.
Maybe just drag her back and forth.
Yeah. We'll start taking her to walk school.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
That right now, if you're allowing the ideas and the communicate, like be very careful with who you listen to and what you accept.
Yeah.
Because even though you might not think it's doing any harm, you being around people is allowing their communication packages to be stored inside of your brain, waiting to evolve and erupt into a nuclear explosion when you're in your most vulnerable and uncertain and crazy state of chaos. That's when it comes up. It's all fine when everyone's fine. It's just when you're not fine.
Yeah.
And and that's just not even advice from just a parenting perspective. That comes from advice from relationship perspective.
Life
your mum could be like, your mum could plant a story inside of you and go, be careful of men that are rich, that make money, they cheat on you. And that little story can sit inside of your brain. And then as I'm texting my female clients,
the weeds grow inside my brain.
As I'm texting clients, working with clients.
And one day I explode and I go, you are never working with women again.
That's why we have a men's program. But these things, on a serious note, if you allow yourself to listen, to accept communication packages, to accept packages at your door, to be stored inside of your brain, be careful. Because they're sitting there and they're growing and they're waiting to explode in those moments of vulnerability. So take a stand and ask yourself, like, who do you want to be? What type of parent do you want to be? What do you want to optimize for?
I think in order to take a stand, you have to be able to define key words of life and what you want out of those keywords like marriage, money, success, what they actually mean to you versus what you've been told they should mean, love, happiness, those are very fundamental words that lead to knowing what stand you take.
Yeah.
And then being able to back up that stand with the way that you live your life, the way that you practice those principles.
Correct. That's super powerful. Like
Yeah.
I want to emphasize that. Like it's understanding what you want.
Yeah.
What do you want? Like maybe you don't want the yacht, first class, gold watches. Maybe you want what that weird guy was talking about on Tim Ferriss's podcast, which is just to not worry about the check, just to buy what you want and not have to worry about the money. Maybe that's what you want. So really getting and being okay with that. Not going, I'm a loser because I don't have these things. I think that's when you start. That's when, if you don't know what you want in life, you're going to get given anything. And life becomes a really bad roller coaster of anything and everything. And then at the end, you're not happy.
And more and more and faster and better and easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the foundational key. What do you want? And then what needs to happen in order for you to get there?
It's the hardest question to ask.
Like, what do you want? Like, even asking that question right now, many times it's okay for you not to know. And the next thing is to find out, not to give up. Like, what do you want? What do we want for O? What do we want for our family? What do you want? Like, it was so confusing with you as well with business. It's kind of like, what do you want? What business do you want? And for a long period of time, you didn't know until you knew.
Yeah.
It was like Keri's been through quite a few stages of business. So have I. And it's taken me 6 years to actually figure out what I want in business, what I want to do. Like, truly. And even then, once I do get it, well, maybe it's not what I want anymore, and that's okay. And then it's finding out what that next thing that I want based on where I am at 42.
There's principles, though, that underline what you want, because when you want a certain thing now, it doesn't mean you're going to want it tomorrow again. But there's still a principle underneath it.
It's the same trajectory. It's the same road, per se.
I think that's really important to define, because what you want today doesn't necessarily mean that you'll want it next week. Like, we eat different things every single week.
Correct.
But what you want and the answers that revolve around connection, trust, respect, not what you want, like five employees, and that level of specificity will change, but there are guiding principles and guiding foundations that will carry through for the rest of your life. When you figure it out, when you figure out that you value integrity over design, for instance, then you'll always follow integrity. I'm thinking about a house, the integrity of a house versus like the design of a house, the aesthetics.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Like, if
I
you
just
value,
wasn't sure where you're going with that.
Yeah. So if you value the integrity of your body and what you put in, how healthy you are, genuinely for your hormones, versus the aesthetics, the design of your body, because we know that you can look great but feel like shit.
How many people do you think want that, though?
But you know what? You have to know. You have to figure that out.
Yeah.
If you want the aesthetics over integrity, you have to stand for that. Like, genuinely, because it's not the answer to go, but how many people actually want that? People don't even know that they want it. That's the problem. People don't even know that they will value aesthetics over integrity.
Yeah.
And that's fine. If you value that, that's fine. It's just, do you know that's what you want? That's the question. Great
question. Well, with that being said, let's wrap up this episode, shall we?
Yeah. Today was fun.
Today is called.
It was very
Today's episode
flowy. It
called-
was very kind of everywhere
Today
and
is
anywhere.
Stand by your principles.
Yeah.
Have the courage to take a stand. Because if you don't have the courage to take a stand for what you believe in, well, you're going to believe in a lot of different things.
Hey, look, the mic looks like it's bruising me. Look.
And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, mums and fathers and dads, we'll see you on the next
Children.
episode. And children. And
Remember, we are all children before we are parents.
we are still children. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Have an amazing day.
Until next week.
Bye-bye.